Each one of us, every human heart, has a yearning for insight into the truth about life. What is life all about? Each of us who has lived also has moments of wonder, moments of encounter, where we come face to face with these mysteries of life. It could be at a time of tragedy, perhaps the death of a loved one, a period of suffering or serious illness or a tragic accident. Or it could be during a time of joy, a mother giving birth to her child, contemplating the beauty of nature, perhaps a flower or a stunning sunrise. Or it could be a time of peace on retreat in prayer, or in the silence of being in a church all by yourself. It's in these moments of wonder that we ask the deep questions of life. Who are you? Where do you come from? Where are you going to? What is the reason for your existence, for your life? Why are you here? Why is this suffering and pain that I'm experiencing? What is the meaning of all this? Now, the world's answers to these questions, especially, let's say, in the secular media, can fail to satisfy us. Why? Because oftentimes the busyness and the distractions of the world are crowding God out of our vision. The Catholic businessman Lyman Stebbins put it this way: modern man has lost his way in his search for happiness, has alienated himself so profoundly from God that he has become alienated from himself and is engaged in a futile search for his own identity. What loneliness he suffers. A theme song of desolation reverberates in his soul. He despairingly seeks guidance among those who are quite as lost as he is. And all his chosen guides lead him again and again to the same abyss from which there seems no way of return. We need heavenly music. We need saving music to fill with hope the emptiness of man's heart, and to fill it to overflowing. It's because in these moments of wonder, your heart is seeking God. And nothing else will truly satisfy that longing. Because only God and His presence can fill our hearts. This is the most fundamental need of every human being. Now, in today's first reading, Moses has a major moment of encounter. It's probably the primordial moment of encounter in the Bible, really. It's God making His presence known to Moses in the burning bush. Now, Moses is just out tending his flock. He's going by a mountain. He's probably gone by this mountain many times before. He's probably even seen this same bush many times before. Oh, there's the bush again. Go out and take care of my sheep. Going back, yep, same bush, different day. Da, da, da. Wait a minute, it's on fire. And suddenly, in the midst of the ordinary life of tending the flock, the mountain and the bush, there's something extraordinary. There's an angel of the Lord. There's a flame which burns but doesn't consume. There's a voice. And there's a visible sign of God's presence, the burning bush. And Moses says, I must go over and look at this remarkable sight. You see, a life of faith is challenging. It's hard. Amidst all the temptations of life, we can't see God. We're tempted to doubt that He's with us. We're tempted to live our lives as if God didn't exist. So God makes himself known to us through these signs of his presence. And when the Lord saw Moses coming over to look at the bush more closely, God called out to him from the bush, "Moses." God knows your name. God knows your situation. And he speaks to you from this sign of his presence. And at this moment, Moses realizes the holiness of God and his own unworthiness. "Take your shoes from your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground." Isaiah experienced this same thing when he saw a vision of God. He said, "Woe is me, for I am a man of unclean lips." Our sense of, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve what I'm experiencing. But yet God calls us in. And he reveals his mysterious name. God said, "I am who I am." Anyone picking that for their next baby? I don't know. What kind of a name is that? What does it mean? And it's almost like a refusal to reveal a name. And that might be because in the pagan religions of the day, the gods that the pagans, other religions worshipped, to know the name of your God was to have some control over your God, was to be able to get him to do what you wanted. So God, in giving this name, is saying, "I am beyond your control. I cannot be manipulated." But it also reveals the essence of God, that God is absolute being. Another translation is, "I am being itself." So God is the necessary being. He's not dependent on anything else or anyone else for his own existence. He is existence itself. And he gives being, gives existence, causes other things to be. You and me, our being comes from God. He gives us life. He gives us existence. He supports us in existence at every moment. And God is infinitely above everything that we can understand and even say about him. He is the hidden God. There's a mystery about God that our human intellect cannot penetrate. And he is the eternal God, the God of the past. I am the God of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob. The God of the present, I am who I am right now. And he is the God of the future, forever. I will be with you. So I'd like to share with you briefly my own major moment of encounter with God. I went to, when I was a second year of university at studying computer science at MIT, I was basically an agnostic bordering on an atheist. I didn't think that God was real. I was really living my life as if God didn't exist. I was in rebellion against the things that I had been brought up to believe and to do. I remember being in a relationship with a woman, and it wasn't based on love, it was based on lust. And I knew what I was doing was wrong. I was lying to my parents. My parents would call me up and say, "So, how's Mass going?" And I'll say, "Oh, it's fine." Not that I'm going or anything, right? You know, and I actually started to realize how I didn't really have anyone to talk to about what I was going through. Couldn't talk to God because, well, God didn't exist. Couldn't talk to my parents because I was lying to my parents. And I couldn't talk to any close friends because I really didn't have any. I was kind of isolating myself from other people in my own selfish desires. And I couldn't get out of this kind of trap that I was in. It was around this time that my mom gave me an audio tape about the God of Christianity. And I was sort of thinking, well, gee, you know, God must really hate me for all the things I'm doing. If God is really real, you know, he doesn't want anything to do with me. But I put this audio tape in my dorm room. I started listening to it. And the priest on the audio tape said, "If the God that you know doesn't love you just as you are, with all your faults, all your failings, all the things you've done wrong, if he doesn't love you right where you're at, not as you should be, then you don't know the God of Christianity. And I remember stopping the tape and saying to myself, wow, I don't know the God of Christianity. The God I know hates me for all these bad things I've done. I started the tape again, and the priest said, if you want to know the God of Christianity, go before a crucifix and pray there for 30 minutes. And confront yourself with the greatest expression of God's love for you, that he would be willing to be tortured and killed so that you could have life. I didn't have a crucifix in my room, and I was kind of a mess. I wasn't about to get one, so I just knelt down in my dorm room. And it was like I was on Calvary. In my heart, I could see Jesus on the cross, covered in blood, dying. And I could see myself in this pit of mud, up to my neck, sinking. And I knew that was all the wrong things that I had done in my life, and that I couldn't get out on my own. And then Jesus looked into my eyes, and he reached out his hand, and he pulled me up. And it was like a hand reaching into my heart and pulling out everything that was evil from inside of me and ripping it out of me. It was like nothing I had ever experienced before. But at that moment, I knew that Jesus was real, that he loved me, and that he was willing to forgive me for everything that I had done. And also that I had to make a choice. Was I going to keep on living my life for myself, being in control of my life, even though I really wasn't? Or was I going to let him be in control? And I remember choosing at that moment to let Jesus be in control of my life. And I wasn't there for 30 minutes. I was there for 3 hours, crying my heart out to God, because this is the Jesus that I had laughed at. This is the Jesus I had made fun of, and made fun of people who believed in him, mocking them internally in my heart. And the same Jesus who I had made fun of was giving every last drop of his blood so that I could live. I said, Jesus, if you love me that much, the least I could do is to love you back. So many things changed after that experience. I was able to end this relationship I had been in. I wasn't able to do that before. I didn't have the grace to. Stop lying to my parents, to live a life of more integrity, treating women with dignity that they have as daughters of God. I came back to confession, came back to the Eucharist. I remember coming up to receive communion, and the priest said, the body of Christ. And I just started to weep. This is the same Jesus I met in my dorm room 2 weeks ago. So it all suddenly started to make sense. Devoured some catechisms, started to figure out, does all this stuff make sense intellectually? Each person's encounter with God is unique. I'm not saying that everyone's going to have the same kind of encounter as I did. There's many different ways to encounter God as there are people. But Jesus is the place, is the person through whom we encounter the Father. Jesus is the burning bush of the new covenant. Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am. He took the divine name for himself, and they tried to stone him for claiming to be God. Later he says, when you have lifted up the Son of Man on the cross, then you will realize that I am. We might see signs of God's presence, but Jesus has seen the Father. In encountering Jesus and putting our faith in him, we discover who God is and also discover who we are. Jesus is the only one who knows the Father and can reveal him to us. And he reveals to us the heart of the Father. And what the heart of God is filled with is infinite love for you. Jesus loved us with an incomprehensible love that surpasses all words. He loved us to the utmost limit. St. John says it this way, he loved them unto the end. Jesus had a revelation he gave to St. Margaret Mary Alacoque. It's called the Sacred Heart devotion. And Father John Delbay talks about this in his book, I Believe in Love, and he puts these words on Jesus' lips describing how Jesus would speak to us about his Sacred Heart. I have given you everything. I have given you my sweat and fatigue on the roads of Palestine. I've given you all my blood on Calvary. I've given you the gift of my Blessed Mother. I've given you myself in the Eucharist. What more can I do that you may believe in my love? I know. I will give you my heart. I shall give you the source of all these follies of my love. During Lent, a Lenten mission is a time to explore these deep questions of life. What are you living for? Are you happy? What is sustaining your life? What is your foundation stone that upholds your life? What are the troubles and the wounds of your heart? And we're going to explore these deep questions of faith in the parish mission, using both the head and the heart. On the first night of the mission, we're going to be using our heads a lot. We'll look at the reasons to believe in God and to believe in Jesus Christ. I'm going to be presenting detailed evidence from science, from physics and cosmology, and also from philosophy, from history, and even from modern-day miracles that demonstrates that it's reasonable to believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to believe in the Catholic faith. That it all hangs together with other evidence from other disciplines. We'll see how the Catholic faith isn't a leap into the dark, but rather it's a leap into the light of truth. Now, since faith requires intellectual assent of the mind, but it also requires more than that. It's more than just using our heads. It's also a movement of the heart. So in the second 2 days of the mission, we're going to be looking at God's call to place our trust in him, to lean on him, to relate to him heart to heart, to enter into a relationship with him, full of confidence in his goodness towards us. So in the second and third nights, I'll be speaking about our interior life of relating to God. And we'll use Saint Therese of Lisieux as a guide, her little way of childlike confidence in the Lord that has no limits. We'll focus on encountering Jesus in the Eucharist, in particular, how to offer yourself to God in the Eucharist as a sacrifice, and how to encounter Jesus in the Eucharist and draw strength from him in the Eucharist as a sacred banquet, as a foretaste of heaven, in which we will see God face to face as he is. So if you're wondering, how can I encounter God? God, where are you? Well, the Lord is following after you. He's seeking out each one of you. And I invite you to come out to the mission. Take off the shoes of earthly worries and seek out the presence of the Lord, the God of mystery, the eternal God who calls you by name. And answer him, "Here I am, Lord," because you know me and you have called me.